Amy. Okay, well, it's great to have Amy today, and I'd like to introduce Amy Follows from Widgit Software, who's based in Leamington Spa. So Amy's in Leamington, and I'm here in Moray House, sunny Edinburgh for a change. And Amy has very kindly offered to take us through some of the new features in the app. Amy did a presentation for us a couple of years ago, and it was excellent, very enjoyable. So I'm sure, no pressure, Amy, I'm sure this one's going to be equally as good, if not better. Okay, so I'll just hand you over to Amy.
No pressure.
Okay, no pressure, Amy. So thanks very much. The stage is yours. What can I say? It's all yours. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Craig. Well, hi everybody. Thanks for joining us. What I'm going to go through this afternoon, Widgit have got a very large app range, and we're forever making it even bigger for everyone's needs. We've got a few new titles which I thought I'll quickly go through this afternoon. We have got the symbols to write range, has been something which has been very popular and continues to be popular. We've also got Widgit Vocab, which are quite low cost little vocabulary apps again, which have been popular. And our newest in the range is a new sort of language assessment series of apps, which I'm going to go through first. So I'm going to go through the early language assessment apps first, and then I'll go through symbols to write and Widgit Vocab, all in the space of 20 minutes. But if you've got any questions, then there'll be a question and answer session towards the end. So please keep your questions ready, and I'll be glad to answer them at the end for you. Okay, so let's start with the early language assessment apps. On my screen, you can see I have got, there are 3 in the range, and it's the last 3. So where you've got the little rabbit for verbal comprehension. We've also got cognitive development and expressive language as part of this range. So I'm going to go into verbal comprehension. Now, this one is designed to assess the early levels of verbal understanding, and it was designed by, in conjunction with Joe Douglas from Great Ormond Street Hospital, as well as Justin Drew, who is part of the speech and language service for Sandwell. Basically, we've had lots of people come to us sort of say, we use widget symbols all the time, but sometimes we're not sure where to start with language and what they can and can't do. And Justin came to our office with all of these massive bags full of language assessment tools that he uses, and he was like, we really want something nice and quick that they could actually access. So it's been designed for an initial screening tool for language, and this first one in the series is verbal comprehension, and like I said, there's also cognitive development and expressive language. I'm only going to have time to quickly show you the verbal comprehension, but the cognitive development and the expressive language are very similar. I can give you further information of the other two in an email or some information from our website as well, if that's useful to you. Right, so straight into verbal comprehension. You get the full manual and also a nice little quick start guide to get you going. But there's also the report form. I was going to quickly show you this part, because this is actually what we've recommended that people use alongside the actual app. So if a teaching assistant or a teacher or a speech and language therapist wanted to find out what kind of level a child is, then they could print this off and use this alongside the actual app. But it does give you different parts of language that it's actually assessing. So, and it just gives you, it's a bit of an initial screening tool just to give you a bit of an idea of their language ability. Loads of people have used this as a kind of like just a little preview of whether that child needs some more intervention. or not. So you can sort of see, so it looks at the function of objects, following a 2-word key command, so finding the sheep and the pig, so 2 objects together, etc. So I always print that when I'm using it alongside that, because then this part becomes a bit clearer. So now you can add as many people as you're assessing as you need to. So it's really good for if you're actually got a whole entire class that you actually thought, right, okay, I need to assess these 10 children. You can easily add a new person. So I can actually just type in, so say if we need to assess my language skills, I can just type in Amy. So I've got no data recorded next to Amy at the moment, but then you can quickly jump into the actual assessments. The assessments are divided into 6 levels, and they match on the record form. It does tell you what kind of age the age of the child should be. So level 1 is from 2 to 2.5 years, where they're sort of matching pictures to common objects and simple vocabulary, mostly like the parts of the body, which is something that they should be familiar with. And all of the illustrations used is been done by Alan Birch. So you've got that consistent kind of vibe of illustrations all the way through. So if I just clicked on level 1, so this is now Amy. Amy is now being assessed in level 1. We use the word assess, but it is really just like an initial screening tool really to help you. So now actually if I go back, one thing I didn't tell you, sorry, at the top you have got speech on and off, so I can toggle those on and off. And I can also record the time that it takes them to do a different question, so I'm going to toggle that on, so it will time me on for each question. And you can also have the text on. Now, when we worked with Justin sort of said, it's really good to obviously have a practitioner doing this with the actual person at the same time. So say if you're working with a 4-year-old, 3-year-old, etc., then actually you might gain more insight to what that child can do by having a practitioner sort of sit alongside them. But it's not always possible that that might happen. So you do have text-to-speech. So now my text-to-speech doesn't work through what the program I'm using to share with my iPad with you. The text-to-speech doesn't work. But if I clicked on where the little widget symbol for talk is, with where the lips and the speech bubble is, it would actually say find one like this. So, so then you need to actually answer the question. Now it gives you a bit of feedback that you have answered the question, so there's a little sort of ting every time you answer a question, but it's not going to mark it for the child in front of them. So it's basically, if I click on the car, it actually just sort of says, yep, you've answered the question, and then you press the right arrow at the top to go on to the next question. And then, so this is level 1. I'll go through level 1 because it's only just 12 questions. So I'm going to do this one correct. But it doesn't tell them if they've got it right or wrong, purely because obviously a child could possibly get all the questions incorrect at this stage. And obviously that could be quite upsetting for them. So it's just that there's noise, but a little ting, but it's purely just to show them that they've actually answered the question. Okay, so imagine I'm going to get a few wrong now, but you can see there's nothing on the screen that actually sort of says that they have got it right or wrong. But again, it is recording certain things in the background as well. So luckily level 1 is only 12 questions long, so I can just quickly screen through these. Now, if a child, obviously with an iPad, it could be easy for a child to actually, I brushed the screen by accident, so I've actually touched on the tree, but actually, I just brushed that by accident. What you can do is you can press the recall, you can refresh it. So can you see there's a little sort of refresh icon next to where it says Verbal Comprehension Level 1. I can click there, and what it'll do is it will give me another chance at that question. So I can now go, okay, I can now touch the car because that's what I knew that I wanted to do. Okay, so nearly at the end of level 1. I won't go through all the levels for you, but the record form is available on our website if you wanted to see what it actually is assessing. So all the different parts of verbal comprehension that it is actually assessing. So there we go. Now every time you get to the end of a level, you can go back to the results, or you can actually continue to the next level. So maybe for some older children, they might be able to do a couple of levels in one go. Or you can go back to this screen. So this is kind of sort of like the admin screen. Now it's just quite a simple assessment where you get a yes or a no of whether they got it right or whether they got it wrong. And at the end of each level, you get a value. So you either get a red, amber, or green. So green meaning that, yeah, they got the majority right. So I got 9 out of 12 there. So yeah, I'm mostly okay. Amber would be that they need quite a lot of work on that level, and red would be that they got nothing right at all. So possibly don't start there, possibly go back a level and see where actually they are. So if I actually show you, I just want to show you Sue. So because as you can add as many pupils and people that you need to in here, you can actually have multiple people for the same person. For instance, so Sue, I've assessed, say this is Sue and I assessed her back in September, and then I've also got Sue June, and then this is what I'm now benchmarking again to see if she's improved. And then I can also have one for, like, say 12 months on, but you can store all of that information to see where she is. So this is an example here. So here's Sue. This was, imagine, in September. Level 1, she was green, but level 2, so you can see, it looks at various different things. So this level 2 looks at lots of verbs. So if you look at, so 2.22, show me the dog sitting. I was 6 seconds on that question, but I didn't get it right. So jumping, there were lots of verbs there that Sue didn't get. So she got an amber value for level 2. And then from looking at the different areas on the record form, you'll quickly see what she needs to work on. So Sue then went away and worked on verbs. And then obviously then you can come back to it and reassess her. So again, she was still green on level 1, which is good. So she's continuing to keep that level. And then level 2, she's now up to green. So what they have been working on the verbs, they've actually been able to move her on. And then you can then, in a year's time, then again assess her. You don't have to do every level either, so you can choose where to start. So Sue, 12 months on, they had sort of decided she doesn't need to do level 1 anymore. We know that she's secure. And then they assessed her at level 2, and she was green. They assessed her at level 3, and she's still, she's amber, but also assessed her at level 4, and she was very amber there with quite a low score there. So it gives you just an inkling of, right, we really need to concentrate on these areas. So it's a good little sort of screening tool for various users. Mostly speech and language, but again, obviously just in a school, you might need to look at a child's verbal comprehension, verbal reasoning, and the cognitive development side as well. So they're a good little bunch of screening tools. And there's also an app that does all three. So this one is the verbal comprehension. These are $24.99 each. So, but you are getting quite a comprehensive screening tool there to actually go through that can help you with a variety of different children. And obviously for practitioners working in different schools, you can actually obviously use that across where you're going to. So that's the early language screening tools, which is more about an assessment. And then moving on from them, what you might actually find, linked to those assessment apps. So those language assessment apps, like I said, so Sue had a difficulty with verbs. We have got symbols to write, which is, can you see the pirate, the tiger is drinking water in that symbol sentence is one. The monkey is the verbs and the fish is the nouns. That's our symbols to write range. But I could then have used verbs. So if I show you symbol verbs, this is part of our symbols to write range. And again, these were devised by Sandwell, which is West Birmingham's NHS Trust. So Justin again helped us with this range as well. And you've got the similar illustrations linked to them too. These now have some widget symbols in them as well. So it's actually to help assist and help improve their language understanding. So we can go into one of these. So let's go into verbs. Now there's level 1 and level 2. Level 1 starts to go through the basics of verbs, and it's concentrating on present tense in level 1. And then if I just jump to level 2, I'll come back to level 1. But in level 2, we then concentrate on the past tense. And obviously those lovely English rules of the regular and the irregular verbs. So just to give you a quick look around, so it will introduce verbs, and then so I'm going to click on activity 2, which is the S adding with the present tense. And there is recorded speech in these apps, which I love. It's actually one of our directors, Tina Detheridge. It's her voice in the background. But now I can think about, so what verb am I going to put in here? So here's, and then so you can see you've now got widget symbols here supporting the reading and the writing, but teaching about the verbs. So the diver finds treasure. I love these illustrations. They're very nice and clear. And then the girl kicks a ball. There we go. So I love how it all pulls the sentence together to show the different parts of the sentence. And then the stars at the bottom is purely just like a progress bar. So it shows you how far along actually in the activity you are. So then you can go on to page 2, and then you've got more examples. So you can see that you can really look at a whole range of different verbs and using widget symbols to support. So the baby crawls. I have to finish a page to get out of an activity. The man lifts. There we go. Okay, so you can see how the you could be using this to teach or using this as a bit of an introduction, and you could even have some very kinesthetic, sort of very active learning going on. So you could be practicing your waving, you could be practicing your crawling and your lifting at the same time. So you can be really, using this app, you can still be very active and creative with how you actually use the actual activities. Now there are different length of activities as well. So if you've got a child that you actually sort of think actually they only can do 4 pages, then you do have shorter activities available. But if it's a child that might be able to concentrate for 8 pages, then there's a longer activity. Then I can go into level 2. So now we're going to be getting into past tense. Now if I show you activity 11, where it starts to introduce was and were as well. So obviously where the plurals start coming in. So the man, so I have to concentrate on this bit to get it right, but I will show you when you do it wrong. So the man was. So if I do running a story, it will basically, it does read you the sentence, and then all it says is try again. There are no distracting sounds or something that might be, I've had it before where I've taught children and they've been actually motivated to get the wrong answer, which is it's a bit annoying. So this purely just sort of says try again. So let's just put was reading a book. Okay. The witches were riding brooms. So again, I'm sorry, I have to finish the page to get out of the activity to show you something else. Now, what it is doing though, it's marking what I'm doing as I go along. So once you get to the end of the activity, there is a certificate page in there which you can print to an air printer, and it gives you an idea. So there are silver stars and there are gold stars. So it gives you an idea of whether they got it right first time or whether they got it right after a few attempts. So that certificate could be used as a bit of a benchmark of what they are good at and what they might need to work on. So if you want to see an example of one of the certificates, I can email you that. It's also on our website too. So that is a very quick little whistle-stop tour of the symbols to write range. I've only shown you verbs, but like I said, there's also symbol sentences, which looks at subject, verb and object. There's also adjectives, which looks obviously at adjectives in a variety of forms, and it also introduces using and, so having two adjectives in a sentence and other bits and pieces. And there's also nouns as well, which looks at plurals. So there's 4 in the range there. Now these are available as a bundle if you want to purchase the bundle. So they are £5.99 each, and the bundle for all 4 is £19.99. So quite low cost, and lots of parents have loved these because it's something that they can then do at home and actually help the children with their language and literacy at home too. And just very quickly before we have questions and answers, goes so quickly, doesn't it? We've also got this Widgit Vocab range. Now the Widgit Vocab, oh, is it? Hang on. Is it thinking about it? Hang on.
Looks like it's disappeared.
It's just disappeared.
Yeah.
It's just disappeared. Oh, that's just typical. Hang on. Where have you gone?
I'll find you.
I'll find you. Hang on. Right.
It's always the danger of reflector. Lets you down when you most need it. Oh, yeah, back again.
It's because I need to change. There we go. It's because I want to change it to portrait. There we go.
Yep, that's fine.
Can we see that?
Excellent, great. Right. So
Excellent, great. Right, so Widgit Vocab is a range with lots of symbols, very low cost, and they're £2.99. It's really useful for vocabulary teaching. So say if you wanted to look at the fruit and veg and actually look at the activities linked to it, then parents can use this to help language vocabulary teaching, and they can also access the flashcards. So you can print these from an air printer, and so parents won't need communicate and print. So for instance, in this one, you have apple through to lettuce, and on page 2 you've got melons through to tomato. And then the parents can actually access and print those. But you've also got the listen and learn activities to help them learn the actual words. And you've also got the assessment activities where you can then actually test what they actually understand and know. Again, there's text-to-speech in these apps, which I can't show you, but it is there. So anytime you see a speech icon, then it will actually talk through. So here, this is matching a sound to a symbol. You can then have, so this is obviously cauliflower, but there are 3 speech bowls to tap, and then it will say 3 different veg. So it could say cauliflower, broccoli, or tomato, and then they need to actually tap on the right one. So I happen to tap the right one there, so I've got a gold star, and then I've now got tomato. So no, I've got that wrong. No, there we go. So I get a silver star for that one. So it took me two guesses to get that one right. And for instance, so you can carry on through that, so you get an idea that it's now counting the gold stars and the silver stars. And again, at the end, you'll get a certificate linked to that that vocabulary range with the symbols there. So it's a good way of vocabulary teaching, and as you know, it could be for children with EAL possibly, or even just children with difficulties with language and vocabulary. But if I take it a bit further up, you can now have, you're now matching the words. So now we've got the word coming in too. So some of them are purely just sound, listening to the oral language, but then you can then start bringing in words as well. So there's a whole range of different ones, and again, so you can see that they can work their way through. Okay, so that was a very quick little whistle-stop tour of the Widgit Vocab ones, but you can see within here you have actually got 7 different ranges there of it, 7 different vocabulary ranges to go through those. So Widgit Vocab could be useful to support vocabulary teaching and learning, and again they're $2.99 each, and the Widgit Vocab bundle has a bundle of 9 apps together, which is £22.99. So that gives you an idea of some of the apps that we do for language. That's great, and literacy.
Thanks very much, Amy. I was just going to ask, I've got 2 questions I'd like to ask, if that's okay, and that would just give folk a chance to type their questions in the chat box if they have any questions to ask. I hope you do. The first one is, for the bundles, is it possible to buy them through the volume purchasing program? So say a school wanted to buy them for across the school, could they get them through that way?
Unfortunately, that is a restriction with Apple. The bundles are available, but they can't be done through a VPP.
And the other question is, are any of those apps, so can you edit them? So say if I wanted to, on some of the nouns and the verbs, those sorts of things, I maybe wanted to make my own, is there an option to do that as well? Okay, that's fine.
There isn't an option there, I'm afraid. They're fixed. Okay. They're fixed content. What I didn't say though is that we've put the language pictures that the Symbols to Write range use into SimWriter and Communicate and Print. So you can then still use the same illustrations and then take some activities further.
That's so yeah. Okay, so thank you for answering my questions, and just wondered if anyone else, we have our participants today, if Alison, Anne, Carol or Helen, Caroline, have any questions to ask? Maybe just pop into the text pane below if you do have anything. Caroline and Alison. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Caroline. Thanks very much. So this is being recorded and it will be available as an archive if you'd like to mention it to your friends or colleagues who'd like to watch it. Alison's asking if you replay the Vocab app, the answers are always in the same place.
It is random. Yep. I can share it again. Yeah. Let's make sure I've got the. Okay, so if I play the same one actually, then you might be able to see. So match the sounds to the picture. So the first one was cauliflower, so you can see it is completely random which one that it's picking from the range. But So that one was the middle one. Yeah, so it is random where it is.
Okay, that's great. So that's random. Okay, thank you. And that's no problem, Helen. Thanks for coming along anyway. Any last questions before we finish up? And let Amy off the hook after doing a great presentation.
Well, just to say, if anyone wanted more information, then they can email me at amy@widgit.com, and I will gladly pass on some more information about them if they would like some.
amy@widgit.com. Is that correct? Yeah. Right. Okay, great. So there's
That's
Amy's
correct,
email
yes.
address if you need to contact her. And of course, the widget site is www.widgit.com. Yeah. So there you go. So we've got Amy's email address and the site. Okay, well, thank you very much, Amy, and it's great the technology worked out that you're in Leamington Spa and we're up here in Edinburgh, and folk from across Scotland and probably further afield possibly as well, that the technology worked without any hitches. So thanks very much, okay? Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everyone, for attending.
My pleasure.
Okay? See you. Bye. Bye.